3 days. That's all it takes to start turning your life around. Not 3 months, not 3 years, 3 days of genuine discipline can set in motion a force so powerful that it begins to dismantle years, sometimes decades, of accumulated weakness. Now, I understand that might sound almost too simple to be true, but stay with me here, because what I'm about to share with you is going to challenge everything you think you know about change. Most people look at their lives and see these massive mountains they need to climb. They look at their health and think they need to lose 50 pounds. They look at their bank account and think they need to make 6 figures. They look at their relationships and think they need to completely reinvent themselves. And because the gap between where they are and where they want to be seems so enormous, they never take the first step. They're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect amount of willpower to sustain them through the entire journey. But here's what I've learned after all these years. The perfect moment is a myth, and the entire journey doesn't matter. What matters is the next 3 days. Think about an apple, just one apple. If I handed you an apple right now and told you to eat it, would that apple make you healthy? Of course not. But here's the question that changes everything. Would it hurt you? Would eating one apple today damage your health in any measurable way? No, it wouldn't. It's neither here nor there. It's inconsequential. Now, what if instead of that apple, I handed you a donut? Would that donut destroy your health? Would it immediately clog your arteries and make you sick? No, it wouldn't. It's just one donut. It doesn't seem to matter. And that's the great deception of life. That's the lie that keeps people trapped in weakness for years and years. They think that because one good choice doesn't seem to matter and one bad choice doesn't seem to matter, that their daily decisions are irrelevant. But here's the truth that successful people understand. It's not about the apple or the donut. It's about what that choice represents. It's about the direction you're heading. It's about the person you're becoming with each small decision. Every choice you make is a vote for the type of person you're becoming. When you choose the apple, you're voting for health. When you choose the donut, you're voting for disease. And after days, weeks, months, and years of voting, the election isn't even close. The person you've been voting for wins by a landslide. The problem is, most people don't realize they're voting. They think these small choices don't count. They think they can start being disciplined tomorrow, or next week, or next month. But every day you wait, you're casting votes for weakness. I remember meeting a young man at one of my seminars. Must have been about 15 years ago now. He came up to me during the break, and he said, "Mr. Rohn, I want to be successful, but I don't know where to start. I've got so many problems. My health is terrible. My finances are a mess. My relationships are falling apart. Where do I even begin?" And I looked at him and I said, "What if I told you that you don't have to fix everything? What if I told you that all you need to do is win the next 3 days?" He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, 3 days? How is 3 days going to fix years of mess? And I said, it won't fix the years, but it will do something far more important. It will prove to you that you can change. It will show you that you're not a victim of your circumstances. It will demonstrate that you have more power than you've been giving yourself credit for. See, weakness isn't something that announces itself with trumpets and fanfare. Weakness is quiet. Weakness is subtle. Weakness is the alarm clock that goes off and you hit snooze just this once. Weakness is the commitment you made to yourself that you break just this time. Weakness is the extra helping of food when you're already full just today. Weakness is the purchase you can't afford just this month. Weakness is the conversation you need to have that you avoid just until later. Notice the pattern? Just this once, just this time, just today, just this month, just until later. Weakness always speaks the language of exception. It always convinces you that this particular instance doesn't count, that you'll get back on track tomorrow, that you deserve a break, that the rules don't apply right now. And the tragedy is that weakness is always right about one thing. Each individual instance truly doesn't matter much. The apple doesn't make you healthy. The donut doesn't make you sick. But the pattern is everything. After months and years of these just this once moments, something happens. The weakness compounds. It builds on itself. It creates momentum. And suddenly, the person looking back at you in the mirror isn't someone you recognize. The bank account isn't what you thought it would be. The relationships aren't what you hoped they'd be. The career isn't where you dreamed it would go. Most people can't even pinpoint where it all went wrong. They can't identify the moment they failed because there was no moment. There were thousands of moments, each one seemingly insignificant, each one just this once. But here's where it gets interesting. If weakness works this way, building slowly and quietly through small compromises, then strength must work the same way. Discipline must follow the same pattern. And it does. That's the great secret. The same invisible line that separates success from failure, that separates the life you want from the life you have, can be crossed in the other direction. And it doesn't require some superhuman effort. It doesn't require you to become someone you're not. It requires 3 days. 3 days of choosing the apple over the donut. 3 days of getting up when the alarm goes off. 3 days of keeping your word to yourself. 3 days of having the difficult conversation. 3 days of saving instead of spending. 3 days of reading instead of watching television. 3 days of exercising instead of making excuses. Just 3 days. Not 3 days to fix everything. 3 days to prove something to yourself. 3 days to plant a seed. And here's what most people don't understand about seeds. When you plant a seed in the ground, nothing happens immediately. If you dug it up after the first day, you wouldn't see much. After the second day, maybe a little change, but nothing impressive. After the third day, still not much to show for your effort, but something is happening beneath the surface. That seed is activating, it's preparing, it's gathering strength. And if you keep protecting it, keep watering it, keep giving it what it needs, eventually it breaks through the soil. Eventually it becomes a plant. Eventually it becomes a forest. 3 days of discipline is planting a seed. It's not the forest yet. It's not even the tree yet. But it's the beginning of something that can grow into something magnificent. And the beautiful part is this. Once you prove to yourself that you can do 3 days, you realize that you can do another 3 days, and another, and another. And before long, those 3-day cycles have created weeks, then months, then years of strength. Years that dismantle the weakness that took years to build. The question isn't whether you're capable of massive change. The question is whether you're willing to start small. The question is whether you're ready to stop waiting for the perfect time and start making this time perfect. The question is whether you'll take the next 3 days seriously, treating them like the foundation of everything you want to become. Because that's exactly what they are. The reason most people never change isn't because they lack desire. It's not even because they lack information. Walk into any bookstore and you'll find thousands of books on how to lose weight, how to make money, how to build better relationships, how to be happy. Information is everywhere. The problem is that people try to change everything at once. They wake up on Monday morning and decide that this is it. This is the week everything changes. They're going to start eating perfectly, exercising twice a day, reading for an hour, meditating, working on their side business, spending quality time with their family, and getting 8 hours of sleep. By Wednesday, they're exhausted. By Friday, they're right back where they started. By the following Monday, they've convinced themselves that change is impossible for them. But change isn't impossible. The approach is just all wrong. See, what these people are trying to do is sprint a marathon. They're trying to use motivation to accomplish what only discipline can achieve. And there's a critical difference between the two that we need to understand. Motivation is like a spark. It's exciting, it's energizing, it gets you moving. But sparks don't last. They flare up bright and hot, and then they fade. Discipline, on the other hand, is like a small, steady flame. It's not as exciting. It doesn't give you that same rush, but it keeps burning. Day after day, night after night, it stays lit. And over time, that small, steady flame can warm your entire house. When I talk about 3 days, I'm not talking about 3 days of motivation. I'm talking about 3 days of discipline. 3 days of doing what you said you would do, regardless of how you feel. 3 days of keeping a promise to yourself when nobody else is watching. 3 days of building that small, steady flame that will eventually light up your entire life. And the beauty of 3 days is that it's short enough to be believable, but long enough to create a shift. Winning the day, that's a philosophy I've lived by for decades now. Not winning the year, because when you wake up in the morning, you can't control what's going to happen over the next 12 months. You can't even control what's going to happen over the next 12 hours. But you can control the next 12 minutes. You can control whether you get up when you said you would. You can control whether you eat what you plan to eat. You can control whether you make that phone call, send that email, take that walk, read those pages. The day is the only battleground that matters. And here's something fascinating about human psychology. We need to see evidence before we believe. You can tell someone they're capable of running a marathon, but until they run their first mile, they won't truly believe it. You can tell someone they're capable of building wealth, but until they save their first $1,000, it's just theory. This is why 3 days is so powerful. 3 days gives you evidence. 3 days proves to your own mind that you're capable of change. And once your mind believes it, everything shifts. I remember working with an executive some years back. Successful guy by most measures, ran a company, made good money, had a nice family, but he was about 60 pounds overweight, and his doctor had just warned him that he was heading for serious health problems. He came to me and said he wanted to get in shape. So I asked him, can you do 3 push-ups? He laughed and said, of course. So I said, fine. For the next 3 days, I want you to do 3 push-ups every morning. That's it. Not 30, not 50, just 3. He looked at me like I was wasting his time. He said, 3 push-ups? That's not going to do anything. And I said, you're right. 3 push-ups won't get you in shape. But they'll do something more important. They'll prove that you can keep a commitment to yourself. Now, can you do it or not? He agreed, somewhat reluctantly. 3 days later, he called me. He'd done his 3 push-ups each morning. And something interesting had happened. On the 3rd day, after he did his 3 push-ups, he did 7 more. Not because I told him to, not because he had to, but because the momentum had started building. The small victory had awakened something in him. Within 6 months, that man had lost 45 pounds. Within a year, he was in the best shape of his life. But it all started with 3 push-ups for 3 days. It started with a commitment so small it seemed ridiculous. And that's the point. When you make the commitment small enough, you remove all the excuses. When you make it simple enough, you can't fail. And when you string together enough of these small victories, they create momentum. And momentum is everything. Think about a train. When a train is sitting still at the station, it takes enormous force to get it moving. The engineer has to apply maximum power just to overcome the inertia, just to get those wheels to turn. But once that train is moving, once it builds up speed, it becomes almost unstoppable. It can crash through barriers. It can climb hills. It can travel hundreds of miles with far less effort than it took to move those first few feet. That's momentum. And that's what happens in your life when you start winning days. The first day is hard because you're fighting against all the inertia of your old habits. You're pushing against years of doing things the other way. Your mind wants to go back to what's comfortable, what's familiar. But you push through. You keep your commitment. You win the day. The second day is still hard, but slightly less so. The train is moving now, even if it's just a few inches. You keep pushing. You win another day. By the 3rd day, something shifts. It's still not easy, but it's easier. The momentum is building. And if you can get to day 4, day 5, day 6, you start to realize that you're not the person you thought you were. You're stronger than you gave yourself credit for. But here's what actually happens in those first 3 days that most people don't talk about. There's a battle going on in your mind. There's the part of you that wants to change, that's committed to discipline, that's determined to become better. And then there's the part of you that wants to stay comfortable, that resists change, that whispers all the reasons why you should quit. On day 1, that second voice is loud. It tells you this is pointless. It tells you 3 days won't matter. It tells you that you failed before and you'll fail again. It reminds you how comfortable the couch is, how good the junk food tastes, how nice it would be to sleep in. If you listen to that voice on day 1, you never make it to day 2. But if you acknowledge it and push through anyway, something happens. On day 2, that voice is still there, but it's a little quieter. It's still telling you to quit, but with less conviction. And when you push through day 2, when you win that day, despite the resistance, the voice gets even quieter on day 3. It's still there. That voice never completely goes away, but it has less power over you because you've built evidence. You've created proof. You've demonstrated to yourself that you're capable of discipline. This is the real transformation that happens in 3 days. It's not that your external circumstances change dramatically. It's that your internal belief system shifts. You start to see yourself differently. Instead of being someone who talks about change, you become someone who actually changes. Instead of being someone with good intentions, you become someone with good habits. Instead of being someone controlled by their impulses, you become someone who controls their choices. And that shift in identity that's worth more than any external result. The tragedy I've seen over the years is watching people who have enormous potential waste it because they never learned this simple truth. They think they need to make huge leaps. They think they need to completely overhaul their entire life in one dramatic moment. So they wait for inspiration to strike. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until the circumstances are perfect. And while they're waiting, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and years turn into a lifetime of weakness, a lifetime of unfulfilled potential, a lifetime of looking back and wondering what could have been if they just started. But it doesn't have to be that way. Starting is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Choose one area of your life where you know you need discipline. Just one. Not 5, not 10. One. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your finances. Maybe it's your relationships. Maybe it's your personal development. Choose the one that's calling to you the loudest, the one where the gap between where you are and where you want to be is causing you the most pain. And then ask yourself, what's one simple action I could take every day for the next 3 days that would move me in the right direction? Don't make it complicated. Don't make it so ambitious that you're setting yourself up for failure. Make it so simple that you'd be embarrassed not to do it. Then commit to those 3 days like your life depends on it. Because in a way, it does. Those 3 days are going to determine whether you're the kind of person who keeps commitments to yourself or breaks them. They're going to determine whether you're the kind of person who builds strength or accumulates weakness. They're going to determine whether this is the year everything changes or the year that looks just like all the others. 3 days. That's where it starts. That's where weakness begins to crack and strength begins to emerge. Not 3 years from now when everything is perfect. Right now, with the next 3 days, starting with whatever you can do today. Now let's talk about how to actually do this. Because understanding the philosophy is one thing, but putting it into practice is where most people stumble. The first mistake people make is choosing too many battles at once. They want to fix their health, their finances, their relationships, and their career all in the same 3 days. That's not discipline. That's a recipe for burnout. So here's what I want you to do. Choose one battle, just one, the one that matters most to you right now, the one that if you won it would create the most positive ripple effect in your life. If you're struggling with your health, maybe your 3-day commitment is this. No sugar after 6 p.m., that's it. Not a complete diet overhaul. Not training for a marathon. Just no sugar after 6 p.m. for 3 days. Or maybe it's taking a 20-minute walk every evening. Or drinking 8 glasses of water each day. The specifics don't matter as much as the commitment matters. What matters is that you choose something specific, something measurable, something you can't negotiate with yourself about. If it's your finances, maybe your 3-day commitment is tracking every dollar you spend. Not changing your spending yet, just tracking it. Writing down every coffee, every lunch, every impulse purchase. Or maybe it's transferring $10 into a savings account each day for 3 days. $30 won't change your financial situation, but the habit of paying yourself first, that changes everything. If it's your relationships, maybe your 3-day commitment is calling someone you love every evening, just to check in, just to connect, just to show them they matter. Or maybe it's putting your phone away during dinner, or saying one genuine compliment to your spouse each day. Small actions, specific commitments, 3 days. Here's the key. Structure your day so that success is almost guaranteed. I call them bookend habits. You attach your new discipline to something you already do consistently. If you're committed to reading for 15 minutes a day, don't just say, I'll read sometime today. That's too vague. Instead say, right after I pour my morning coffee, I'll read for 15 minutes. The coffee becomes the trigger. The reading becomes automatic. You're not relying on willpower alone, you're using structure. A struggling salesman once came to one of my workshops. He was barely making ends meet, constantly stressed, always behind on his goals. I asked him what he did first thing every morning. He said he checked his email, scrolled through social media, got some coffee, eventually made some calls. No structure, no discipline, just reacting to whatever came his way. I gave him one simple 3-day challenge. Before you do anything else in the morning, before email, before coffee, before anything, make 3 phone calls to potential clients. Just 3. For 3 days. He protested. He said he wasn't ready. He needed to check his emails first. He needed to warm up. He needed his coffee. All the excuses. But I pushed him. 3 calls. 3 days. That's it. He agreed. Those first 3 days were rough. He told me later that he hated it. Every morning, that voice in his head screamed at him to check his email first, to have his coffee first, to do anything except make those calls. But he pushed through. And something remarkable happened. By starting his day with the hardest thing, with the thing that actually moved his business forward, everything else became easier. The rest of his day had momentum. He felt like a winner before 9 a.m. Within 3 weeks, those 3 calls became 5, then 10. Within 3 months, his income had doubled. Within a year, he was one of the top performers in his company, all because he learned to win the first hour of his day, all because he committed to 3 days. The voice of resistance will always be there. It will always have reasons why today isn't the right day. It will tell you you're tired, you're stressed, you deserve a break, you'll start tomorrow. And here's the truth. Those excuses will always sound reasonable. That's what makes them dangerous. They're not obviously wrong, they're just comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. So when that voice shows up, and it will show up, you don't argue with it. You don't try to convince it. You simply acknowledge it and do the thing anyway. You say, I hear you, and I'm doing this anyway. Because discipline isn't about feeling like doing something. It's about doing it regardless of how you feel. That's the whole point. That's what separates people who build strong lives from people who stay trapped in weakness. Choose your battle. Make it specific. Structure your day for success. Commit to 3 days like it's the most important thing in the world. Because for those 3 days, it is. Now, step back with me for a moment and look at the bigger picture. Because those 3 days aren't just about the immediate result. They're about something far more profound. They're about the person you're becoming. They're about the trajectory you're setting for the rest of your life. And when you understand this, when you really grasp what's at stake, those 3 days take on a completely different level of importance. I've lived long enough now to look back and see the patterns. I can trace the major turning points in my life, the moments that changed everything. And almost without exception, they weren't dramatic events. They weren't lightning strikes of inspiration or sudden windfalls of good fortune. They were quiet decisions, small commitments. Moments when I chose discipline over comfort, when I chose growth over ease, when I chose to keep a promise to myself even though nobody else would have known if I broke it. There was a period in my early 20s when I was broke, frustrated, and going nowhere. I had all these dreams, but none of the discipline to make them real. One day, I decided I was going to read for 30 minutes every evening. Just 30 minutes. Nothing earth-shattering. But I committed to it, and I kept that commitment. 3 days became a week became a month became years. And over those years, the knowledge I gained from those books, the ideas I encountered, the perspectives I developed, they completely transformed my life. But it started with 3 days of keeping a simple promise to myself. That's what people don't see when they look at successful individuals. They see the results. They see the wealth, the health, the relationships, the achievements. But they don't see the 3-day commitments that were made years ago. They don't see the countless small disciplines that compounded over time. They don't see the morning routines that never got skipped, the difficult conversations that didn't get avoided, the investments that got made when spending would have been easier, the workouts that happened when sleep would have been more comfortable. Success isn't one big decision. It's thousands of small decisions made consistently over time. And weakness isn't one catastrophic failure. It's thousands of small compromises accumulated gradually until you wake up one day and don't recognize your own life. The terrifying part is that both paths look almost identical at the beginning. The person choosing discipline today doesn't look much different from the person choosing comfort. But give it 5 years, give it 10 years, give it 20 years, and the gap between those two people becomes a canyon so wide you can barely see across it. I think about the tragedy of the undisciplined life, and what strikes me most is the regret. Not the kind of regret that comes from trying and failing. That kind of regret is honest, at least you tried. No, the regret that haunts people is the regret of never trying, the regret of always planning to start tomorrow, the regret of knowing you were capable of more but never demanding it from yourself. That's the regret that keeps people up at night in their later years. That's the regret that can't be fixed with money or success or anything else. When people talk to me about their regrets, they almost never say, "I wish I had worked less." They say, "I wish I had taken better care of my health." They say, "I wish I had built stronger relationships with my children." They say, "I wish I had started saving earlier." They say, "I wish I had pursued that dream." They say, "I wish I had been more disciplined." And the heartbreaking part is that all of those wishes could have been realities. All of those regrets could have been avoided with discipline, with 3-day commitments made consistently over time. So let me paint 2 pictures for you. 2 futures. Both of them start today. Both of them are available to you right now. In the first future, you finish reading this and you feel inspired. Maybe you even feel motivated to change. But then life happens. Work gets busy. Something comes up. You tell yourself you'll start next week. Next week becomes next month. Next month becomes next year. And 5 years from now, you're having the same conversations with yourself, facing the same struggles, carrying the same weaknesses. Nothing has changed except now you're 5 years older and 5 years further from the life you want. In the second future, you finish reading this and you make a decision. A real decision. Not a wish, not a hope, not a plan to plan, a decision. You choose your 3-day battle. You structure your days for success. You commit fully, knowing that these 3 days are going to prove something essential about who you are, and you follow through. 3 days becomes a week. A week becomes a month becomes a year, and 5 years from now, you're living a completely different life, not because of some miracle, not because circumstances were perfect, but because you made thousands of small, disciplined choices that compounded into transformation. The beautiful truth is that those 3 days are going to pass regardless. Time doesn't stop moving, whether you use it well or waste it. Next Monday is coming. Next month is coming. Next year is coming. The only question is who you'll be when they arrive. Will you be the same person, carrying the same weaknesses, having the same struggles? Or will you be someone who discovered that discipline isn't this massive, overwhelming thing? It's just 3 days at a time, repeated consistently, building a life of strength. Philosophy is about becoming, not just achieving. It's about who you're turning into with every choice you make. Because here's what I know for certain. You can lose money and make it back. You can lose opportunities and find new ones. You can lose time and make the most of what remains. But you can't become a disciplined person by accident. You can't stumble into strength. You have to choose it. You have to build it. You have to prove it to yourself. 1 3-day commitment at a time. So what will you do with your next 3 days? Because everyone gets the same 72 hours. Everyone faces the same choice between discipline and comfort, between growth and stagnation, between becoming stronger or staying weak. The difference is some people treat those 72 hours like they matter. They understand that 3 days of discipline today can end years of weakness tomorrow. They understand that the time is going to pass anyway. The only question is what you'll build with it. Your next 3 days start now. What are you going to do with them? The truth is, you already know what you need to do. You've known for a while now. There's that voice inside you that's been whispering about the change you need to make, the discipline you need to develop, the weakness you need to address. And every day you ignore that voice, you're making a choice. Not choosing is still a choice. It's a choice for things to stay exactly as they are. But today can be different. Not because the circumstances are perfect, Not because you suddenly have more willpower than you did yesterday, but because you understand now that you don't need to change everything. You just need to win 3 days. 3 days of showing yourself that you're capable of more than you've been settling for. 3 days of proving that discipline isn't some mystical quality that other people have. It's a skill you can develop, starting right now. Years from now, when you look back at your life, this moment won't seem significant. But the pattern you start today, that will be everything. So stop waiting. Stop planning to start. Stop negotiating with yourself. Choose your 3-day battle and win it. Because 3 days of discipline can absolutely end years of weakness. The question is, will you give yourself those 3 days?